Naomi Bernard was making soup when she heard them laughing about her. She was in the kitchen of the Kwon family mansion in the Hanam district of Seoul, standing at the large stainless steel stove with a wooden spoon in her right hand and the specific focused attention of someone who is doing something important and was not going to be distracted from it by the sound of laughter coming through the kitchen door. The soup was doenjang jjigae, not from the packaged stock that the kitchen pantry had 3 boxes of. Not from the recipe card that the previous head cook had laminated and pinned to the inside of the cabinet door. From scratch, the way she had been taught. The anchovy stock reduced for 40 minutes. The fermented paste from the specific market stall in Mapo that Bokja had taken her to on a Tuesday in January, and had stood in front of for 6 minutes selecting the exact correct variety, while Naomi held the basket and learned. She had been making this soup for 3 months, not for the Kwon family, not yet. She had been making it in the small apartment in Mapo that she shared with a 71-year-old Korean woman named Bokja, who had appeared at her door on a rainy evening in December, asking if the spare room was still available, and who had been, from the first week, the most specific and most interesting person Naomi had encountered since arriving in Seoul 14 months ago. Bokja had taught her the soup. Not from a recipe, from the specific knowledge of someone who had been making the same soup for 50 years and understood every element of it by instinct rather than by measurement. The fermented soybean paste had to be a particular quality. The anchovy stock had to be made from scratch and reduced to the correct depth of flavor. The tofu had to be added at the precise moment and not a moment before or after. The zucchini cut in a particular direction because the direction affected how the pieces held their texture through the cooking time. The green onion added at the end when the heat was exactly right, not before, because adding it too early changed the flavor register of the entire soup in ways that were subtle and significant. Naomi had learned it all. She had learned it because Bokja had asked her to learn it, and because Naomi Bernard was a person who took learning seriously regardless of whether the reason for the learning was immediately apparent. She had learned that reasons became apparent eventually. You learned first. The reason arrived when it was ready. The laughter from the other side of the kitchen door had started 7 minutes ago. She had caught the words before the door swung fully closed. Something about the new African girl making traditional Korean soup. Something about whether she even knew what she was making. Something about knowing your place in someone else's kitchen. Naomi stirred the soup. She adjusted the heat precisely. She tasted. She added a small additional piece of fermented paste, the exact amount Bokja would have added, and tasted again. Perfect. She was not thinking about the laughter. She was thinking about what Bokja had said 3 days ago when Naomi had told her about the housekeeping position at the Kwon family mansion. Bokja had gone completely still, and then she had said, in the careful and specific Korean she used when something mattered, "Take the position. Make the soup when the time is right, and when they ask you about it, tell the truth." Naomi had not fully understood what she meant. She was beginning to understand now. Let's go back to the beginning. Naomi Bernard was 27 years old, Douala born, raised between Cameroon and France, because her father, Emmanuel Bernard, was a Cameroonian economist who had completed his doctorate at the Sorbonne and who had raised his daughter between Douala and Paris with the specific gift of a man who believed that being multilingual was not simply a skill, but a fundamentally different way of seeing the world. She spoke French and English fluently and had been learning Korean for 18 months, with the particular focused determination of someone who had decided that Seoul was going to be her city for the foreseeable future, and intended to understand it from the inside rather than from behind the glass of a language barrier. She had come to Seoul for a music production program at a private arts institute in Mapo. She had been making music since she was 14 years old in her father's house in Douala, using a second-hand keyboard and production software she had downloaded from a free trial that had long since expired, but that she had found ways to continue using because stopping was not something she had considered. Over 12 years, that work had become a body of original music that existed in the specific territory between West African rhythmic language and Korean melodic structure. A combination that had arrived not from a deliberate creative decision, but from 18 months of living inside both musical traditions simultaneously and finding that they had things to say to each other. The program had ended after 3 months. She had not gone back to Paris. She had not gone back because Seoul had gotten into her in the specific way that certain cities got into certain people, not through the tourist layer or the cultural spectacle layer, but through the actual daily texture of life in a place that moved differently from anywhere she had lived before, and that had a specific relationship with craft and precision that resonated with how she worked. She was staying on a student visa extension, working legally through a domestic staff placement agency, because the music was not yet generating income, and the Mapo apartment cost money, and the continued Korean lessons cost money, and the equipment she was slowly building cost money. The Kwon position was the best placement the agency had offered in 3 months of her being registered with them. Full-time live-in option available. Salary above market rate. The Kwon family was one of Seoul's most established private families, significant in real estate and private security through the Kwon Group. The mansion in Hanam was large and required substantial household management. Mrs. O, the head housekeeper, ran a tight and professional operation. She had taken the position 8 days ago. 8 days had taught her that the mansion had 22 rooms across 3 floors, that Mrs. O was meticulous and fair, and expected precision from everyone on the staff equally regardless of background or seniority. That Mr. Young, the household manager, ran the administrative functions with the efficiency of someone who had been doing this for 15 years and had no patience for anything that was not correct. That the 3 other housekeeping staff were professional and polite, and looked at her occasionally with the specific curiosity of people who had not worked alongside someone from Cameroon before, and were taking their time forming their conclusions. And that Kwon Seungho, the eldest son of the Kwon family who ran the group's private security and real estate divisions, was 34 years old and had the kind of eyes that tracked everything in a room without appearing to track anything, and a mouth that said very little, and who had looked at her on day 1 with the specific assessing quality of someone cataloging a new variable, and had not looked at her directly since. She had decided to be visible through the work. The evening dinner was a family gathering. 8 guests. Mrs. O had been taken ill at 6:30 and had asked Naomi specifically to handle the soup service because Naomi had made it and understood its exact temperature and serving requirements. This was how Naomi found herself walking into the formal Kwon family dining room with the soup pot on the serving trolley at 7:15 p.m. on her 8th day in the mansion. 8 people at the table, family members and 2 business associates. Kwon Seungho at the head. Dark suit, the eyes that tracked everything. She began serving. First bowl, correct ladle depth, correct temperature, set precisely. Second bowl, one of the business associates, a Korean man of approximately 50 in an expensive suit, made a comment to the person beside him. Not loud, not quiet enough. In Korean that he clearly did not expect her to understand. Something about the presentation of African help serving traditional Korean food. Naomi did not adjust her expression by a single degree. Third bowl. Correct depth. Correct temperature. Set precisely. Fourth bowl. This smells different, Kwon Seungho said. His voice was low and direct. She looked at him. The anchovy stock is made from scratch, she said. Reduced for 40 minutes. The fermented paste is a specific variety I sourced from a market in Mapo. The quality differs from the packaged stock and standard paste in the pantry. He looked at her steadily. Where did you learn to make it this way? Someone taught me, she said. Someone, he said. Yes. That is not a complete answer. No, she said. It is not. She served the 5th bowl, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. The business associate who had made the quiet comment was now looking at the soup in front of him with an expression that had made several revisions since he had first sat down. He tasted it. He said nothing. He had a second spoonful before the first one had fully registered. The table went quiet in the way of tables that were eating something worth being quiet for. Naomi returned to the kitchen. She cleaned the serving equipment. She organized the serving trolley for the next course. She listened to the quality of the silence from the dining room and knew what it meant. She thought about Bokja. Tell the truth when they ask. She understood now that the asking was not finished. After the dinner concluded and the guests had dispersed, and the kitchen staff had completed the cleaning and drifted to their evening routines, Naomi heard footsteps in the corridor outside the kitchen. Not Mrs. O, not Mr. Jang. The specific quality of footsteps from someone who moved through their own house at whatever hour they chose and did not announce themselves. Kwon Seungho walked into the kitchen. He stood just inside the door for a moment. He looked at the cleaned surfaces, the organized shelves, the specific place where the anchovy stock pot had been, now washed and returned to its position. He looked at her. "The soup," he said. "Yes," she said. "My grandmother made it that way," he said. "Exactly that way. The paste variety and the scratch stock and the specific timing. I have not tasted that soup in 14 months. Naomi looked at him. "I know," she said. He went completely still. The kitchen was quiet around them. Outside, the Seoul night was doing its Seoul night things, and inside the mansion the rest of the household was finishing its evening, and in the kitchen there were 2 people and a piece of information that one of them had been waiting to deliver. "How do you know?" he said. "Because she taught me," Naomi said. "Her name is Kwon Bokja. She is 71 years old and she has been living in my apartment in the Mapo district since December. She came to my door on a rainy evening asking about the spare room, and I said yes, and she moved in the following week." He said nothing. "She left this house 14 months ago after the inheritance meeting," Naomi continued. "She did not tell her family where she went. She has been in my apartment since December. She taught me the soup. She taught me many things. And 3 days ago when I told her about this position, she said, 'Take it. Make the soup when the time is right. Tell the truth when they ask.' She sent you," he said. "She asked me to take the position," Naomi said. "She did not explain why for the first several weeks. Then she told me about the inheritance dispute and the family and what had been said in that meeting, and she said she needed to understand something before she was ready to come back." "What did she need to understand?" he said. Naomi thought about Bokja on the quiet evenings in the Mapo apartment, sitting by the window with the Seoul night outside, and the specific stillness of someone sitting with a question they had been carrying for a long time. She needed to know if the family noticed she was gone before they knew where she was, Naomi said. She said 14 months was long enough to have her answer. "What was the answer?" he said. Naomi held his gaze. "That part is between you and her," she said. "I was not sent to answer that question. I was sent to make the soup and tell the truth. I have done both." He sat down at the kitchen counter. He sat with the quality of someone who needed a moment in the room where the significant thing had arrived rather than somewhere else. She understood this. She gave him the moment. She turned back to the shelf organization and worked quietly while he sat. After a few minutes, he said, "How long have you been in Seoul?" 18 months, she said. "I came for a music production program at a Mapo institute." "You stayed." "Seoul got into me," she said. "The program ended. I did not." "And the housekeeping?" "The music is not yet paying what the apartment costs," she said. "It is not complicated." "You speak Korean well for 18 months." "I study everything I intend to do seriously," she said. "Korean is one of those things." "And traditional jjigae," he said. "Bokja does not accept halfway," she said. Once she decided to teach me, she taught me completely. The corner of his mouth moved. Not a smile. The thing before a smile when someone has been holding something serious and has just received information that lightens it by a specific and welcome degree. I need to speak with her, he said. I know, Naomi said. She knows. She has been waiting. He stood from the kitchen counter. He straightened his jacket. He looked at her with the eyes that tracked everything. Miss Bernard, he said. Yes. The soup was exactly right. She looked at him directly. I know, she said. She would not have accepted anything less than exactly right. He went through the kitchen door. She heard his footsteps on the main staircase. She took out her phone. She sent a message to Bokja. He knows. The reply came in 4 seconds. Good. Now make yourself tea. You have been on your feet since 5 a.m. and you look tired even through text. Naomi laughed. She made herself tea. The following morning, Kwon Seungho left the mansion at 7:30 a.m. in a dark car. Naomi was in the Mapo apartment collecting some personal items when the car pulled up outside. She left before the door opened. That conversation was not hers to witness. She went back to the mansion and did her work. At the end of the week, Mrs. O called her aside in the corridor outside the coordination office. Mr. Kwon has requested that you be assigned to the household coordination role, Mrs. O said. It is a senior position. You would manage the interface between the household operations and the family's schedule. He specified that he wanted someone thorough. Naomi looked at her. I have been here 11 days, she said. I am aware, Mrs. O said, with the expression of someone who is also aware of other things that explain the situation, but was not at liberty to list them. He said 11 days was sufficient to understand what thorough looked like in practice. Naomi accepted the position. The coordination role changed the texture of her days in the mansion. She saw Kwon Seungho regularly now, not in the managed formal way of staff and employer conducting scheduled interactions, but in the practical daily way of two people managing the operational requirements of a large household together. She briefed him each morning. He asked questions. Specific questions that indicated he was paying attention between briefings, rather than simply receiving information when it arrived. He asked about the music at the end of the second week. She told him about the production program and the work she was building and what it was. Music that existed in the conversation between West African rhythmic language and Korean melodic structure. The two things that had been living inside her for 18 months, talking to each other while she documented the conversation. He was quiet. That is a specific thing, he said. I am a specific person, she said. Yes, he said. I have noticed. The corner of his mouth again. She noted it. The inheritance dispute resolved in the third week. Naomi did not know the exact details of the family meeting that resolved it. She was not present and had not asked. She knew that Bokja had come to the Kwon mansion for the first time in 14 months on a Tuesday afternoon, and that when the household staff had gone about their evening routines, the mansion had a different quality. The specific settled warmth of something that had been missing finding its way back to where it belonged. Bokja found her in the upstairs corridor afterward. The older woman looked at her with the expression she wore when she had something significant to say, and was selecting the correct words with care. Thank you, Bokja said. You planned the whole thing, Naomi said. From December, the spare room, the soup lessons, all of it. I needed someone who would do it correctly, Bokja said simply. You are correct about most things. Most things, Naomi said. You are incorrect about the coffee, Bokja said. You still use too much water. You have been using too much water for 3 months, and you have not fixed it. The coffee is perfectly fine, Naomi said. The coffee is a tragedy that I have been too polite to fully address, Bokja said. But everything else you do correctly. Naomi laughed. The real laugh. Bokja patted her arm with the specific warmth of someone who expressed affection through precision rather than through softness and walked down the corridor to find her son. In the weeks that followed, Naomi built herself into the coordination role with the same thoroughness she had brought to the soup and the language and everything else she had decided to do seriously. She reorganized the scheduling system. She identified 3 operational redundancies that were costing the household staff unnecessary time and addressed them with solutions that she presented to Mr. Jang, who implemented them without ceremony because they were correct. She established working relationships with every member of the household staff that were warm and clear and professional. And she had a series of conversations with Kwon Seungho that were professional at the surface and something else at the level below it. He told her about studying architecture for 2 years before his father's declining health had required him to come back to the Kwon group and take on the operational leadership of the security and real estate divisions. Was it difficult? She said, leaving the architecture program. It was necessary, he said. I have been working out for 9 years what the difference is between difficult and necessary. She looked at him. There is not always a difference, she said. No, he said. Sometimes they are the same thing wearing different labels. She thought about that for days afterward. One evening, in the 5th week, she was in the household coordination study finishing the following week's scheduling when he came in. He did not come in with the professional quality of an employer checking on work. He came in with 2 cups of tea. He put one in front of her without announcement. He sat in the chair across the desk. The music, he said. The West African and Korean conversation you described. Yes, she said. I would like to hear it. She looked at him. It is not finished, she said. I know, he said. I would like to hear the unfinished version. I understand what unfinished means. I spent 2 years studying how buildings become what they were always supposed to be before the exterior is visible. She thought about this. She opened her laptop. She played 3 minutes. He listened with the complete quality of someone who had decided to give their full attention and was giving it without reservation. Not the polite listening of someone enduring another person's art, the real kind. The kind that had a body quality to it, a stillness that was different from waiting. When it finished, he sat with it for a moment. That is the soup, he said. She stared at him. Explain, she said. The soup in the kitchen and the dining room conversation, he said. Your music is the same structure. 2 specific real things that are completely themselves and make something together that neither of them is alone. Not a blend. A conversation. The doenjang paste and the scratch stock do not become each other. They talk to each other. Your music does the same thing. She looked at him for a long moment. Kwon Seungho, she said. Yes. That is the most accurate description of what I am trying to build that I have heard from anyone who heard it for the first time. The corner of the mouth. This time the full version arrived. Not contained. Not managed. Simply there. Complete. The first time she had seen it fully. She looked at it. She noted what she was feeling, and she did not attempt to file it under any professional category, because she had understood for at least 2 weeks that the professional filing system had exceeded its capacity for this particular set of information. Naomi, he said. The first time, without the miss. Yes, she said. Halmione told me something about you, he said. What did she tell you? She said. She said you pay attention to what matters and ignore what does not, he said. She said it was the rarest quality she had encountered in a long time. She said she knew it in the first week. Naomi looked at the laptop screen. She thought about Bokja on the rainy December evening at her door. She thought about 3 months of soup lessons and coffee arguments and evenings in the Mapo kitchen when the older woman would talk about the Kwon family with the specific layered quality of someone telling a story that had several more dimensions than the surface version suggested. She thought about take the position and make the soup and tell the truth when they ask. She planned everything, Naomi said. She did, he said. From December. She told me she chose the apartment building in Mapo specifically. She said she had seen you in the building twice before she knocked on the door. She watched how you moved, how you paid attention to things. She made the decision about the spare room before she knocked. Naomi sat with this. I need to have a significant conversation with that woman about the definition of coincidence, she said. The full smile. Again, completely his. She would tell you, he said, that it was not planning, it was architecture, designing the room so that what needs to happen inside it can happen. She said she learned that from living with someone who spent 2 years studying architecture before the organization required him. Naomi looked at him. She said that, she said. Those exact words, he said. She looked at the desk between them, the 2 cups of tea, the scheduling documents, the laptop with the music still open on the screen. Seungho, she said. Yes. The music, she said. When the finished version exists, I would like you to hear it in a context that is not this desk. He looked at her. When the track is finished, he said. Yes, she said. Naomi. Yes? I will be here, he said. I am not going anywhere. She picked up her tea. He picked up his. Outside the Kwon mansion, the Seoul Night was doing what Seoul Nights did in that specific season. Being entirely and completely itself without apology. Inside the coordination study, the room was warm with lamplight and 2 cups of tea, and a laptop with music that was a conversation between 2 languages, and a scheduling document that was not the most important document in the room. Bokja had designed the room correctly. It was holding exactly what it was supposed to hold, and it was holding it exactly right. Drop a comment right now and type, she built the room and it held everything. Because Kwon Bokja planned this from a rainy December evening when she knocked on a door in Mapo and chose a spare room, and a person who paid attention to what mattered. And Naomi Bernard walked into the architecture of it honestly, and made the soup correctly, and told the complete truth when asked, and the room held everything, and it was always going to end exactly like this. Tell me your moment. Was it the soup silencing the entire table? Was it the kitchen being more honest than the dining room? Was it tell the truth when they asked said before the reason was clear? Was it I miss being missed? Was it the coffee is a tragedy? Was it the music being the soup? Was it the first time without the miss? Was it she chose the apartment building before she knocked on the door? Was it I will be here, I am not going anywhere? Tell me everything. And if you are here because Afro's storyverse builds stories where African women arrive quietly and change everything by simply being exactly who they are, subscribe. Hit the bell. Every notification. Every week. More characters. More rooms designed correctly. More soup that silences tables. And young, my loves.